There we go. I think stream is back up, is it? Should be. Yes. My LAN cable decided it didn't want to be connected to my PlayStation anymore, so that was very interesting. But hopefully that is going to be the last issue we have on that front, and the stream will be fine from now on. But Nathan, what has been happening while we have been taking that impromptu break from proceedings?
Literally nothing at all, Ghost. Every single driver went into the pit lane. There's not been a single lap on the board. The only person that is about to set a lap is Richard Vick. He, in the Red Bull, is just coming around turn 16 now, and he is about to start his last flying lap here. And can he get in front of his teammate of Ivan Eskrig? I feel like it's a fight between the Red Bulls.
Yeah, I agree, and just I'll recap what happens to the stream once more people are in. But Richard Vicker now heading through the first sector. He's the only one on a lap right now. Almost the entire grid still in the pits, other than Jensen, who's on an out lap. So Richard Vicker is the main source of entertainment right now on the circuit. He's heading through the first sector. Let's see if he's going to have an improvement here. No, not quite. 4 thousandths down, so practically identical to his previous time. He needs 2/10, remember, to get himself back onto pole position. So Ivan Eskrig has pulled out a whopper of a lap there, as Richard Vicker's going to have to find something special to unseat his teammate today. He comes through now into the latter part of the second sector. What's it going to be across the sector line for the Red Bull driver? He's half a tenth up, but he needs a lot more than that, Nathan.
He does. He needs to find at least 2 attempts here to comfortably take the provisional pole spot of his teammate. He's got a racing bull in front of him, and he has been held up by the sister car. Invalidates it, and that is it for Richard Vick, and he will not take pole here in Qatar.
That is definitely the dirty air forcing him wide at turn 15, and you can see, well, I mean, I don't think I need to speculate on what his feelings were about that one, as we saw his car just lurch to the right and go straight into the wall. But Jensen is going to start a lap anyway, but he is going to have that in his mind, knowing that he blocked someone's quali lap, and he'll be thinking about that. He'll know he has a penalty as well, so that'll affect how he races later on, I'm sure. But he's in sector 1 and he's backed straight out of that lap anyway, so that's probably going to make Richard Vicker even more frustrated. But everyone else on an out lap right now except for the championship leader, Lars Kramer, who's in sector 1. And while we have this slight lull in proceedings, just a quick second explanation to the chat of what happened to the stream. My LAN cable decided it didn't want to be connected to my PlayStation anymore, so there we go. It's hopefully not going to do that again. The last time it did that was about a year ago, so I thought we were past that. But anyway, Lars Kramer heading through sector 2. He wasn't up on his what he can do at the latter part of the middle sector here. He's got to nail it if he wants any sort of improvement. He only needs a couple hundredths to get himself on the second row here, and he finds 3 hundredths in the middle sector. That would be enough to get himself into P4, but he's going to want more than that, because VNT Tom is also on a lap. Let's just check out if he's improving in sector 1, and then we'll cut straight back to Lars Kramer. VNT Tom is half a tenth up in the first sector, so the Sauber driver needs more here, and he goes wide at the final corner. And no improvement for Lars Kramer, the championship leader. P5 at best, Nathan.
Wow, that is huge, and all the other drivers will be having that force in their head now about Lars Kramer being behind. VNT Tom has also invalidated it, so the Alpine driver will not improve from P4. And then you've got Zawada going up to P3 in the house, provisional second row in front of Dylan Hoagland, who's coming around turn 16. The McLaren driver will be next. He's currently in P4, down to the line. The Papaya takes P2.
Brilliant lap from Dylan Hoagland at the end there in the McLaren, but Ivan is improving again. He's coming through sector 2. Can he find even more time to consolidate this pole position even further? I don't think anyone else is anywhere near challenging him, but he's down a little bit in sector 2. He's pretty much matching his lap identically, but he goes wide and invalidates through the triple right-hander. So Ivan Eskrig will not find improvement, but I don't think he needs to. Christian has invalidated as well, as has Nico Rassenberg. So all the drivers putting absolutely everything into these final laps, and in some cases it is too much. Sipala's lost his front wing. He will be at the bottom of the grid as Namsko now in the Aston Martin invalidates at the final corner as well. So that's going to be it. 20.5 it would have been, so it would have put him up into 10th place, I believe, maybe even 9th. But look how close the times are between 8th and 10th. But yeah, Namsko will remain in 13th thanks to that final corner invalidation. But Ivan Eskrig, that is a whopper of a lap time. 1.2 tenths quicker than second place is absolutely fantastic from Ivan Eskrig, and he is looking to take his championship lead right back again.
Yeah, unbelievable that goes. We had 7 drivers in the 120.5s, and we had 5 drivers invalidate on their final runs. But it is Ivan Eskrig, the man from Spain in the Red Bull, who takes pole position. Dylan Hoagland will start on the front row alongside him in that McLaren. On the second row, it's Richard Vick in the Red Bull in P3 and Zwadek in P4. On the third row, VNT Tom and Lars Kramer team up with the Alpine and the Sauber. Then on the fourth row, it's Kevin Zunneberg in the Mercedes and TRT Christian in the Ferrari. On the fifth row, it's IRT Sieb in the Williams, alongside him Nico Rassenberg in the Kick Sauber. Then comes Brian Amers, IRT Phil, Namsko, Goon Buster, TRT Zane, SCI Jensen, and then VNT Sapala completes your grid for Qatar.
Yeah, Sapala will be gutted with that one, because a bad qualifying in Qatar is very costly indeed. So he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to get decent points today after the Alpine Masterclass in Silverstone 2 weeks ago, where they finished 1-2. It didn't look quite the same in Hungary, and here in Qatar, VNT Tom looks pretty good, but Sapala is going to need to do an awful lot more to make any sort of result like that happen again. But we are going to get drivers on the grid to start the race relatively shortly. Any podium predictions in chat would be welcome. But Nathan, I don't know how often you've raced around Qatar, but what does it take to have a strong race around the Losail International Circuit?
So, for me, I've only raced around here once, and it's one of them circuits I am not on, absolutely nowhere near the level of the calibre of drivers that you are witnessing right here in PSF2. They are absolutely incredible. And they'll know every little tweak on the track. They'll know every little nook and cranny. They'll know everywhere they can pick up a little bit of time. What I would say is I think penalties will play a massive part in this. Drivers are able to keep it clean, but it's very hard for a driver of this calibre to take their foot off the grass and just release that throttle. They usually tend to stay on it and just go for it, and then they tend to pick up them time penalties, but I think they will be so costly come the end of this Grand Prix to try and keep it clean. I think that will be the main thing for these drivers come the end of this evening, is definitely going to be track limits around the circuit like Qatar. It's very flat, it's very open, it's very free flowing, and you can sort of full throttle around most of the circuit. I think 72% of the circuit is full throttle, something like that. So the drivers will tend to run a little bit wide, and then you've got to be careful of the side-by-side action going down in towards turn 1 and then through sector 1, down into the hairpin at turn 10 and down in towards the final chicane at turn 16. So all in all, I think it will be a fantastic Grand Prix, very open, very competitive, but I think track limits will play a major part this evening.
Yeah, they definitely will. You're absolutely right. Track limits. I mean, Canada is the original track limits Grand Prix, but Qatar definitely challenging Canada for the crown in recent years on the F1 games. But yeah, we'll see which drivers can stay within the white lines, because it could well end up deciding quite a few positions in this race, how many penalties you have. Especially with the grid likely going to be so close together thanks to the DRS train. But here we go, we're about to find out. It's 3, 4, 5 red lights, and we're underway. Very quick launch as Ivan Eskrig gets caught out by the lights a bit. Dylan Hoagland gets him down towards turn 1. As a result, the McLaren driver takes the lead of the Qatar Grand Prix. We've got 3 cars further back, wide into turn 1, as the 2 Red Bulls duel for P2, but Richard Vicker backs out of that one, and Ivan Eskrig stays in that position. Zviadek has done well to stay in P4, as well as Phil and Sieb side by side through turn 3 down towards 4, as well as the Haas driver on the inside, and he keeps that position. Oh, there's contact further back, a lot of contact. I saw a bit of wing flying off. I'm not sure who it was from, but there's a lot of cars going for dive bombs there as well into turn 6, and a lot of argy-bargy in the latter part of the grid. We've got Nico Rassenberg and Phil side by side as well through sector 2 right now. They've managed to settle their differences, and Nico up to P9. That is Buster already with a track limits penalty. He's down to 14th and now down to last, and Namsko is out the race, and looks like contact with Buster. I'm not sure what's happened there. Sipala, as if his day couldn't get any worse, has a 10-second penalty as well, and we can take a breather for the virtual safety car. What a chaotic start, Nathan.
Wow, the drivers just seem to be all over the place at the start of that Grand Prix. The main movement was Dylan Hoagland, who took the lead in front of Ivan Eskrig, and then the 2 Red Bulls went fighting wheel to wheel, and then that huge collision. Sapala's evening going from bad to worse with that 10-second time penalty. The VSC is out. This just neutralises the race for a couple of minutes, but wow, Brian Amos and Sapala both into the pit lane, the Williams and the Alpine, and then Buster picking up a time penalty and retires from the Qatar Grand Prix. So an evening to forget for him. So we're just going to wait for the green flag to go back racing again, and it is half a second between Dylan Hoagland and Ivan Eskrig. Richard Vick has lost that DRS range to his teammate at the moment. And Zavadek in P4, VNT Tom in P5, Lars Kramer in the Kicksauber in P6, Kevin Zonnenberg P7, CRT Christian in P8. So they've all stayed in position. Nico Rassenberg is up 1 into P9 in that Kicksauber. IRT Phil is up 2, Sieb is down 2, and then up 3 is CRT Zane and Jensen. But the green flag is underway, and Dylan Hoagland has got a tremendous restart. He's a second clear of Ivan Eskrig. Ivan Eskrig has been pushed down in towards his teammate to go battling with him again, but that was a fantastic launch from the Papaya McLaren, who is outside of the DRS range as they head in towards turn 12 and 13.
Dylan Hoagland timing that restart to perfection in the McLaren, but Ivan is coming back at him in the final sector. 8.5 tenths, he is back within DRS range. That is the crucial thing for him, because he was looking very unsteady there for the DRS. He did manage to secure it. So we are back to business as usual for the front runners as everyone piles through the start-finish line. For the second time, Dylan Hoagland leads from Ivan Eskrig as the Red Bull driver gets close with the DRS, but not close enough to make a move. His main goal, though, would have been to just have the DRS at all, and he has successfully achieved that. We have had 2 drivers starting on the hards. That was Zane and Sipala. Sipala has since pitted with the damage, presumably, and he's now on mediums. And Brian Amos has pitted onto the hards now in the other Williams, or in the Williams. But Zane starting on the hards and struggling to stay with the medium runners at this point. I'm yet to see really what tyre wear is like at Qatar, because this game, kind of the tyre wear is a bit all over the place in terms of the tracks in comparison to previous games. Monza, for example, which has for years and years and years been a very simple one-stop, usually medium to soft or soft to medium, is now a really difficult one-stop from medium to hard. Really hard to get the tyres all the way to the end without a puncture doing a one-stop in Monza. And to show that the tyre wear, you can't rely on previous games to predict the tyre wear on certain tracks this year. So for all we know, it could be a 2-stop. I wonder if we'll see anyone try it. We saw a couple try it in Hungary last week, didn't we? We saw I can't remember who it was. I think it was Sieb, wasn't it, who tried it? It might have been, and got himself into 9th place as a result. But yeah, the strategy is going to be fascinating to watch here in Qatar, as Viadec is now 8/10 nearly behind the top 3 and had a bit of a poor lap, but is still crucially in DRS range for now.
He is, and you're right, it is. You'll see a lot of different strategies for the drivers this evening. DRS is so strong around here as well. If any of the drivers like Ivan Esquik can get a good launch out of turn 16, then you will see action-packed overtakes here in Qatar. What I would say, we've already seen 4 laps. The medium compound tyres are on at roughly 15%, so the tyre wear potentially quite high. You've got 29 laps. You'll definitely see the medium to hards, and potentially back to the mediums as well, with them drivers going for a 2-stopper. I think it ultimately depends on how the race goes for these drivers. If you've got somebody at the back, TRT Zane, for example, who started on the hards, potentially he's going to be in for a decent strategy if he can stay with these drivers until further down the line. So we go back on board with the leaders, Dylan Hoagland and Ivan Esquik, as they come out of turn 16. Is Ivan Esquik going to be close enough to make an overtake? TRT Christian is also chasing down Lars Kramer, but he is not going to be close enough to make the move down in towards turn 1, although he is chasing him very hard, and he's not going to be able to make the move. And as we said, Ghost, they are going to be stuck in that DRS train, very similar to Hungary last week.
Yeah, indeed. I think pit stops are going to have a big part to play in this race. Who is going to come in first? Who's going to blink and go for the undercut to try and gain some places at the cost of tyre wear? And, well, by the sounds of the tyre wear from Nathan there, it sounds like if you come in a bit too early, you're heavily risking a puncture on the hard tyres later on. So it's all going to be about who is brave enough to go for a bigger undercut and have those 1 or 2 lap older tyres later in the race to have to contend with. It looks like Dylan Hoagland has the better of Ivan Esquik through most of the circuit, but it's just that DRS is so difficult for Dylan Hoagland to deal with, to try and drop Ivan Esquik, because Ivan just gains back all the time he loses on the rest of the circuit with the DRS. He does seem to have the better run through Sector 3, the Red Bull driver, but Sectors 1 and 2, the McLaren has the edge. So he builds up a gap, and then it all comes back down again here, down towards turn 1, and then he builds it back up again through sectors 1 and 2, and I think we'll probably see the same pattern again this lap. But still no one able to make a move, everyone just keeping their ERS close to their chest, and no one going for any sort of send, because of course by going for a risky move into turn 1, you risk losing the DRS to the cars ahead and actually just costing both of you any chance of securing any better positions in the race, as we see Nico Rassenberg there ploughing through the the 100-meter barrier, I think that was, down towards turn 6. But yeah, Dylan Hoagland once again, as we can see, through sectors 1 and 2, just drops Ivan Esquik, but it's just not quite enough, because the Red Bull driver can come back at him in the final sector with some of his ERS usage, and can get the DRS back to turn 1 again and back to square 1. So things are a bit neutralised at the moment. I think once the pit stops start happening, and I don't think it'll be too long before that happens, then we're going to get a lot more action in this race. But Ivan going very wide there, and there is the first of what will likely be many track limits penalties in this race. TRT Christian, the first victim of the white lines.
He is indeed, and the first of probably many that we'll see. What I find interesting is the way the drivers, especially Dylan Hoagland, goes all the way over to the left-hand side as we go down in towards turn 1. But he's literally so far over that he's on the brink of putting all 4 wheels over the white line. He's literally taking every single millimetre of this circuit as he goes in towards turn 1. So is this Dylan's debut race?
I believe so, yes, I believe so.
Yeah, so he's showing exactly what sort of driver he is on his debut. He's competitive, he's risky, he knows his stuff, he's got great racing ability, and that is why he's here in F2 for PSGL. Dylan Hoagland leading this Grand Prix and showing all the other drivers how it is done after 7 laps here in Qatar. But it's just amazing to see the drivers just on the limits constantly. Nothing else to see apart from these drivers showing absolute skill when it comes to driving these Formula 1 cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ivan will be cursing himself for not anticipating the lights going out as quickly as they did at the start, because I think that's what did him in. He didn't get the launch that Dylan Hoagland did because the lights went out so quickly. It was just, they were all 5 and then practically straight off again immediately, and it really caught the pole sitter out. But Dylan Hoagland saw it and reacted quicker and got himself ahead, and that is proving to be the difference at the moment. Dylan is able to pull away without the dirty air, perhaps with a little pace advantage as well. And so Ivan is not able to get past him. I do wonder what the situation would have been if Ivan Eskrig had managed to keep the lead into turn 1, but I guess we will never know, and Ivan has now got to deal with the cards that he has dealt himself, really, with that poor start.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ghost. He can only sort of blame himself for that race start, and Dylan Hoagland was just quicker off the line and into the lead. I'm just wondering, these Red Bulls, Ivan Eskrig just doesn't seem to be able to get within a decent enough range of the McLaren in front. I'm wondering if the Red Bulls at any point would decide to swap to try and see if the other Red Bull driver can attack the papaya to help Ivan Eskrig in the long run, and whether they will play some kind of team games in terms of strategies. If Ivan Eskrig will go for the undercut and then Richard will stay out and potentially try and battle with Dylan. It's all of these future battles in the minds of these drivers and what to expect. These medium compound tyres are on 42% now. Brian Amers with the second penalty of the evening, but every single time we come down this straight, Ivan Eskrig is 7 tenths behind, and then he gets about 3 tenths and then back behind again. So it's very consistent. Everything's very studied as well, the drivers, but there's nothing really that Ivan is doing, and he's just holding on to them down.
Yeah, I wonder as well if Ivan Eskrig has a slightly lower downforce setup than Dylan Hoagland here, because he's. Yeah, I know the DRS is powerful around here, but he gains so much on the straight and really struggles in the more technical sections of the circuit compared to McLaren. It could easily be dirty air, it could just be a difference in driving skill in that section of the track, but it could also be, you know, there's many factors that could be at play here. So there is the question, if Ivan has gone for a slightly lower downforce setup, hoping that he can retain first place going into turn 1, that might well be biting him back now, because he's not able to get close enough to have a run into the first corner. Although this time, this is as close as he's ever been to the back of the McLaren since the start of this race at this point in the track, although he loses it again through turn 15. So back to 7 tenths again, and we're back to the usual situation. But all it's going to take is Dylan Hoagland to have one bad lap, and Ivan will be ready to pounce. But that is the other Red Bull, meanwhile. Richard Vicker into the pits for an early stop here, and that is going to break DRS for Zviadek, who's now going to be under heavy pressure from the Alpine of VNT Tom, unless he can get back in range of the top 2. But a big decision here from Richard Vicker to get those hard tyres on, presumably to the end. I don't know if he's going to do a 2-stop from here. I would imagine not. But that's definitely a huge decision, and he's going to have to own that now and hope that those tyres can last him long enough to make this work, because he's definitely going to gain a lot of time doing this in the short term, but in the long run, will he have the tyres to keep up?
Yeah, I can't help but feel that this is tactical from the Red Bull drivers. Richard going for the undercut, and potentially it will come out in front of Dylan Hoagland, and is that where he starts to help his teammate Ivan Eskrig to potentially take the lead back out of the hands of the McLaren driver. As you said, Zwadek has lost that DRS to the Red Bull driver. He's going to have to potentially use some battery here to get back in. Is he going to get it, or no, he's going to stay behind? So let's stay on board with the front runners. Who is going to go into the pit lane? Are they going to answer? They are not, but Zavardek is. So is VNT Tom. Kevin Zunneberg as well. A 10-second time penalty for Zavardek. So a lot of the drivers are in. TRT Christian is also in. So different strategies starting to play out. Lars Kramer, the championship leader, now into P3. And his strategy will be completely different from these drivers. And he'll hopefully wait for that perfect strategy with his teammate involved behind.
Here's Richard Vicker down towards turn 1. Is he going to be in front of the Haas Zwadek? That's the big question. I think he is, but not as much as he would have hoped, I think. He comes down towards turn 1 and Zwadek's still right behind him here. So I think Richard will be disappointed with that. He would have wanted to easily gap the cars behind. And yes, the gap is over a second now, and Zwadek's going to have cold tyres. But I think Richard would have been hoping for 2 seconds to be the gap between him and Zwadek. So I think he'll be slightly disappointed with that outlap that he got there. But you've got to remember as well that the Red Bulls, you know, there may well be some strategy going on here, but there's not a lot of team dynamic yet at Red Bull because they've only been teammates for 2 races. This is their second race as teammates. So especially after Hungary was such a disconnected race where they've really perhaps got an opportunity to play the team game. So you have to wonder if it's going to happen. But Richard Vicker has been sensational on this lap. Dropping Zwadek by 1.7 seconds, and the front runners now into the pits. Dylan Hoagland and Ivan Eskrig. So Nico Rassenberg, Sieb and Zane the only ones to stay out. Of course, the Ferrari on hard tyres already. But Lars Kramer, also championship leader, is going to need a lot here. He's had a pretty lackluster race so far. So what can he do as Richard Vicker comes down towards turn 1? Where's it going to be between him and Dylan Hoagland? Let's run on board with the McLaren driver. Here we go into turn 1, and Richard Vicker's got him. The Red Bull back into a net P1 in this race, or actually for the first time into a net P1. And Dylan Hoagland now, the shoe is on the other foot for him. He's got a lot of work to do to get past this other Red Bull, and Ivan Eskrig is going to be ready to pounce if anything does happen.
What a fantastic undercut from Richard Vick in the Red Bull. He's now a second clear of Dylan Hoagland, but that was brilliant. The only problem is getting to the end of this race, still 17 laps remaining, and on them hard compounds, surely there will be so much more worn down by the 29 lap mark, and Dylan Hoagland and Ivan Eskrig 2 laps fresher when they get to the final couple of laps. Ivan Eskrig will be happy that his teammate is in front, and I think you're absolutely right, Ghost. If we look at Hungary, they weren't able to team up, and we've already seen them battle going into the first couple of chicanes at the start of this Grand Prix. But I think Ivan Eskrig will be hoping that his teammate just helps him out from this point forward. When Dylan goes for the attack, will Richard Vick battle him like Sergio Perez-esque? We shall see. Nico Rassenberg in the Kick Sauber is also into the pit lane. TRT Zane and IRT Sieb both stay out for another lap. TRT Zane, remember, is on the hard compound, so he's going for the longest strategy, but IRT Sieb on the mediums, they look very, very worn down now. And Sapala right at the back, his are on 62%, so you can sort of judge where they're going to be. And that is IRT Phil on Nico Rassenberg. The Haas driver went around the Sauber and up to P11. What a move. You don't really see many moves going through turn 3.
Lovely stuff from Phil to get himself into 11th place. Sieb staying out this long is a really interesting strat. I don't know how well it's going to work for him. He's going to have the best tyres of anyone towards the end of this race, but is it going to be worth it, excuse me, to lose that many positions? Because as we've seen from the first stint, the DRS train is so difficult to pass in. So a lot of work to do for Sieb, but remember, he did the 2-stop in Hungary last week, so he's no stranger to giving himself a lot of work to do. Surely into the pits this lap, yeah, indeed, the Williams driver comes in, and Zane inherits the lead with Lars Kramer, championship leader, now getting a track limits penalty, as that is the Alpine of Sapala having a spin, unfortunately for him, at turn number 5.
Ghost. Dylan Hoagland is all over the back of Richard Vick, like literally into the slipstream. DRS enabled, he's going to take the lead away from the Red Bull. The Papaya McLaren of Dylan Hoagland takes the provisional P1 right back out of the hands of Richard Vick, and there's nothing he could do about it. Fantastic move into turn 1.
Yeah, Dylan Hoagland looks to be the fastest driver on track at the moment. He is flying in that McLaren. Richard Vicker just unable to live with him in the final sector. And Dylan Hoagland said thank you very much with the DRS. And now we do have a situation on our hands between the Red Bulls, because obviously Richard Vicker joining late in this season, about at the halfway mark. He's not really in this championship fight unless he wins every race from now on. And I don't think that is realistic. So is there going to be any chatter between the Red Bulls? Are they in a party? Have they got any team dynamic yet in their second race to be able to make the swap, to make that call, to give Ivan Eskrig the points in his championship challenge? Because second place is obviously much better than third, and you never know how many points the championship could be decided by come the end of this season. So big decision to make for the Red Bulls here, if they are in any sort of situation to be able to make that decision. Are they in a party? Have they been chatting? I don't know, so I'm sure we'll find out. But Richard Vicker at the moment, the man in second place, chasing down Dylan Hoagland, but not able to get past into turn 1. Nico Rassenberg, meanwhile, sets the fastest lap further back and gets past IRT Phil for 10th place on those 1 lap fresher hard tyres, but a 1.9 second gap to the rest of the pack. He's given himself a lot of work to do.
Yeah, if Richard does go for the swap with Ivan Eskrig, he's got to also be careful that he doesn't lose the position to VNT Tom. So if it does happen, it's got to be very... the strategy's got to be perfect. It's got to be executed to perfection, because VNT Tom is all over the back of Ivan Eskrig, and he will take up another free position if Richard Vick gives him half a chance. So they'll have to execute it perfectly if they need this to work. That's if they even decide to do something like that. As you said, they've not been teammates for long. It's unlikely that they're discussing an option like that. Ivan Eskrig is also 8 tenths behind, and that is Kevin Zonneberg with a time penalty, 3 seconds for the Mercedes driver. And the strategy for TRT Zane, how is this looking, Ghost? He's 11 seconds in front of Dylan Hoagland. He's on that longer strategy, going to run for the mediums at the end of the race. I'm not sure if he will have the time to sort of catch up on the mediums.
I don't think so. I think he's put himself in a really difficult situation here. I'm surprised to see anyone go for the alternate strategy, to be honest, as Phil gets back past Nico Rassenberg, meanwhile, for 10th place. But the Sauber driver trying to get back at him into turn 2. Oh, he had a look at the inside, but decided, I think, very sensibly against sending it into there. But yeah, IRT Phil into 10th, and Zane, yeah, like I was saying, he's put himself in a really difficult position. He's going to be on the mediums, he's going to be on the best tyres at the end, but for how long are they going to be the best tyres? How long will they last and still be good to race on? That's the big question. So Zane here, I think he's not got anything to lose on the bright side. He can just absolutely send it in his second stint and just see what happens. But I think he's going to be well out the points in this race. I don't think it's the kind of race like Hungary where you can really make a strategy like this work. So we'll see, though. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, as Jensen is the next victim of track limits, and IRT Phil straight afterwards as well. But the big thing is going to be these 4 drivers: Dylan Hoagland, Richard Vicker, Ivan Eskrig, and VNT Tom. All of them with no track limits penalties. Is that going to change at any point? All the drivers behind have penalties, so these 4 have been the class of the field today in terms of pace and cleanliness. But it's all going to be about whether any of them accidentally pick one up at any point. And I wonder, Nathan, after I hand back to you and then you can hand back to me, whether you could check if they have or how many track limits warnings these 4 drivers have. But for now, They're all doing perfectly fine. We've just gone past the halfway mark in this race. 12 and a half laps left to go, and at the moment Dylan Hoagland is controlling this race. He was out of control for a few laps after the undercut from Richard Vicker swapped the positions, but he took back the lead in emphatic style a few laps later and has looked in control once again ever since, although Richard Vicker a little closer on this occasion, but the dirty edge is losing so much time through this final sector, and I think Dylan Hoagland is very strong through those corners compared to the Red Bull driver as well. So Richard Vicker, again, he'll have the DRS and he'll close back the gap, but he's not close enough to make a move in the same position as Ivan Eskrig was in the first stint.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the track limits. Ivan Eskrig has 2 track limit warnings, so one more he will get a penalty. Dylan Hoagland is on 1 track limit. VNT Tom, I think he's got 1 there, and he's got 2 as well, so VNT Tom is on 2. And then Chris will be the last one that we do check. I don't think Chris is on any, actually. Richard Vick, he is on 1. So, Richard Vick is on 1 warning, Dylan Hoagland's on 1, Ivan and VNT Tom are both on 2.
So the pressure's on for the Red Bull and the Alpine, and you know, sometimes you can have races where you get 2 warnings in the early laps when it's all kicking off and you're getting to grips with the track, and then for the rest of the race it's perfectly fine, and you're able to avoid getting the 3rd and most important one. But it's still, the pressure is on, knowing you only have 1 you don't have any more mistakes in the tank, and you've got to be perfect from this point onwards, and otherwise you're going to end up losing positions. As our race leader finally comes into the pits, TRT Zane losing so much time staying out for that long on the hard tyres compared to everyone else who got the undercut. He's going to strap on a set of mediums and go to the end now, but he's going to be well behind the rest of the pack, and I'd be surprised if he picks up any points today, especially with that track limits penalty he's got. And talking of the penalties, it is 10 seconds to Zviadek, so that could be an opening for Zane, but 3 seconds to everyone else who has a penalty at this point. So Nico Rassenberg and Sieb in good positions, although the Kicksauber of Rassenberg, he may not have a penalty, but he's also not in the DRS range of the drivers ahead, so he could struggle here to stay within the 3 seconds he needs to gain any positions out of it, as Zviadek himself as well struggling to stay in the DRS of Tom on this lap, but gaining a bit of time there through the left-hander, but losing it on the exit. It's going to be really close to see if he can retain that DRS.
Yeah, I'm just having a look. TRT Zane, he's going to be so much quicker on these mediums, but when he gets to the pack, I don't even think he's going to be able to overtake. And the hard compound tyres are between 35 and 40% worn already, with 10 laps to go. Wow. I think these drivers are going to be pushing sort of puncture territory.
It might even be a 2-stop at this point. If that is true, because Dylan Hoagland now, he's got Richard Vicker right behind him, but again not close enough to make a move. But are any of these drivers going to have to consider the 2-stop? None of them are going to want to, of course. They're all going to want to go to the end on these tyres, but 10 laps still to go on those hard tyres. They're only halfway through their life. Or, well, not even that for most of them. Richard Vicker's tyres are halfway through, but everyone else, they're still not quite even at the halfway point of this stint. And with 40% tyre wear, that's going to get them to at least 80, so we might see some puncture drama in the last lap or 2 of this race. But for now, I think the drivers, the other thing that's also preventing any real chances at overtakes here, other than the dirty air and Dylan's supreme pace, is the tyre wear, because they're all going to be looking to be saving their tyres. None of them are going to want to wear the tyres too much, and they're all going to be in tyre saving mode, hoping not to get a puncture. So unless they're extremely good at saving their tyres, I think this is going to be a tense last 9 laps of this race.
You're absolutely right. I think it's going to be very, very close at the end with the wear on these tyres. So Dylan Hoagland still leads Richard Vick in P2 in the Red Bull, and then Ivan Esquig, his teammate, in P3. VNT Tom in the Alpine in P4, and then you've got Zavadek, Zunneberg, Christian, and then Lars Kramer. So TRT Zane sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, so he's absolutely flying on them new mediums. You've got IRT Sieb on the back of IRT Phil, just chasing him down. He did look for a move there, but he was a little bit reluctant to try and go for it as they go into the double right-handers at turn 5 and 6. The Williams driver chasing down that Haas in front, but that is really the only sort of battle we've got on track that could potentially end up in an overtake at the moment, as most of the drivers just stuck in that DRS train. The question is, can Dylan Hoagland hold on till the end of the Grand Prix? We know that the drivers on 11 laps, they're around 47%, where VNT Tom around 41%. So it's going to be very tasty come the end of this Grand Prix. I don't think anybody will try that two-stopper at this point in the race, but it's going to be on the brink right at the end of this Grand Prix. In the last sort of 1 or 2 laps, these drivers will be looking at them tyre wear in extra detail. So Dylan Hoagland down the straight again as we go towards turn 1, and he's got that gap to Richard Vick behind once more. Ivan Esquig is closing up a little bit more to Richard Vick as the other Red Bull driver goes a little bit wide. Ivan Esquig trying to close the gap, but then IRT Sieb in the Williams is through on the Haas down in towards turn 1, and the Williams driver is into the top 10.
Yeah, he's into the points, is Sieb at this stage, but Zane 7 seconds behind now as Christian gets himself another time penalty. He's up to 6 seconds now, so he is in danger of dropping out the points here if he's not careful. Zviadek, oh gosh, he's going to be kicking himself. He's still got no track limits penalties on the board. It's a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane that he's got next to his name. So he is probably going to drop out the points here when he could have had a very, very strong 5th place finish. So he'll be very frustrated in that cockpit knowing what could have been. We still could get a safety car at some point that would save him, allow him to come into the pits and serve that penalty, but even then he would drop all the way down. So yeah, he will be very frustrated with himself in that cockpit, especially if it ends like this. But Dylan Hoagland, 8 tenths ahead of Richard Vickers, still not able to get that Red Bull out of DRS range, but he's done enough once again to prevent himself from being overtaken. Richard just not close enough at all to even think about a move into turn 1, and with no ERS left as well on that Red Bull, and Dylan Hoagland is... well, he's got a lot more, shall we say. So he is really controlling this race expertly at the moment, as Brian Amers getting past Jensen for 13th at the back, but a lot of work for him to do as Sieb now picks up a track limits penalty, his first one of the day. So we're down to 6 drivers left in this race without a penalty, 7 without a track limits penalty. But the top 4 being 4 of those 7, I mean, it's clear that these 4 are the class of the field today. All at the front of the field, all with outstanding qualifying laps, and all without a track limits penalty. Very impressive drives from these 4, and there's still 5.5 laps left for something to change, but at the moment Dylan Hoagland is expertly controlling this one, and well, Sipala now brings us down to 6 drivers without a track limits penalty.
Yeah, we knew that it would play a massive factor in this Grand Prix, so 6 drivers without track limits, and 4 of them being the top 4. Dylan Hoagland is up 1 position, Richard Vick is up 1 position, Ivan Esquig, who started on pole, is down 2, and VNT Tom is up 1 after overtaking Zvadek. So that is your top 4, and Ivan Esquig seems to be creeping a little bit closer to Richard Vick at every opportunity down towards turn 1, and I think the drivers will start to they'll start to feel the tyre degradation underneath them now, and they'll start to consider how they're going to take corners, if they're going to ease off the throttle, feathering the throttle outside of the chicanes on the apexes. they're going to be so much more under pressure, and the way they're driving, I can just feel the nerves. They'll be shaking and sweating, they'll be gripping the steering wheel, trying to control them cars, as the tyres will be on sort of 52 to 55% for these drivers with 5.5 laps to go. That is quite incredible, and it is going to be very spicy in the last remaining laps.
They're going to be keeping a very close eye on their MFD to look at that tyre, whereas Viadak now has disconnected, unfortunately, from the session. So, I mean, he was already had that 10-second penalty, which is going to drop him a long way. But now he is definitely not going to get points in this one, which is a real shame. He's driven very well today. And it's also going to cause a problem for the drivers behind, because that car's not going to ghost. So they all have to get past him regularly. He's into the pits, actually, as AI has forced him in. But the two Saubers right together here. Nico Rassenberg looking for a way through on the championship leader. He looks for the inside into turn one, but backs out just in time. And Lars Kramer holding him up at the moment. But Nico down the inside of turn two. What a move this would be from Nico Rassenberg on the championship leader. His teammate here outside for turn four. Surely not. He has to back out of that one. There is contact between the two as they head through five, but Lars Kramer holds position and holds DRS crucially to Christian as well. But Nico Rassenberg is on the warpath at the moment in that kick Sauber. Christian just about staying with Kevin Zunneberg, which is what he needs to do. Sepala's binned it, and that's a safety car right at the end of this Grand Prix. Sepala has binned it into the wall at the exit of turn number 10, and that is a huge swing in this race. Who's going to come into the pits? Surely you've got to come in for fresh mediums or softs to the end from this stage. And Sepala, nearly a lap down, has just crashed and had a huge impact on this race, and it's going to be even worse news for those with 3-second penalties, and it's awful news for Ivan Eskrig. He's going to have to double stack with his teammate. He's going to lose a ton of positions here. Same for Nico Rassenberg. He'll be gutted with this, but everyone piles in. No, they don't actually. Tom and Dylan Hoagland staying out, and they've got to be regretting that, surely. Stephen Phil also staying out, but most of the grid in. Richard Vicker in for fresh softs. Ivan Eskrig is going to get held up. Oh, he's getting held up hugely here in that Red Bull. He had to let the Ferrari out. Ivan's going to drop right to the back, and we've got high drama at the end of this Grand Prix. Ivan Eskrig down to 10th place, and look at this, Nathan, after all of that, he's behind his main rival for the championship after being 6 or 7 positions higher than him all race long. He is going to be a very unhappy driver in that cockpit, and his only saving grace here is that he doesn't have a track limits penalty, so he just needs to stay in the DRS train and he'll still get a good result here. But he's also got to stay within the white lines, Nathan. The pressure's on more than ever now.
That is absolutely unbelievable. So Ivan Eskrig has come out behind Lars Kramer in the Sauber Championship rival. As you said, Ivan Eskrig doesn't have a track limit, but I'm pretty sure that some of these drivers will be on the limit of this circuit for the remaining laps. And Dylan Hoagland, who's led for the majority of this Grand Prix, has stayed out. VNT Tom also joined him, and he's done an extra lap on them hards. They're on 56% tyre wear. The only thing I can think of at this point is that the drivers are going to assume that the safety car is going to stay out until the end of lap 27, which means they're going to have 2 laps, one of them without DRS, one with DRS. So basically they're only going to have one real racing lap, which is going to be lap 29. So do they pit and have to overtake all them drivers, or do they just stay out, gamble, and just try and live with the worn tyres? They do have a safety net in terms of IRT IRT Phil on them hard compound tyres, and then TRT Zane on them 7-lap-old mediums. But IRT Sieb has got the freshest of the hard tyres of all 4 of them, but he does have that time limit penalty. Dylan Hoagland and VNT Tom have got some work on their hands, but so has Richard Vick, who is the front runner of the pitted cars. but he's got 5 drivers in front of him to overtake, and that Ivan Eskog in the Red Bull, after double stacking and being in the podium positions all Grand Prix, is now down in P10. It's quite extraordinary.
It certainly is, and I wonder if he's going to be thinking that he should have stayed out here. But, I mean, Christian's gone onto the hards, by the way. I'm not sure if that was intentional, but if it was, it's an interesting call for sure. Maybe he didn't have a fresh set of softs or mediums, but I'm not sure how he could find himself in that situation. But either way, he's on hards now, and he's going to be struggling in these last 2 laps. But this is going to be chaos. We're going to get 2 laps of green flag racing with the top 4 on aging, very old hard tyres, TRT Zane on pretty old mediums as well, and everyone behind other than Christian on fresh softs who are going to be all looking for positions. Richard Vicker is going to smell a victory here. He needs to gain 5 positions in 2 laps to do it, but it's definitely possible for the Red Bull driver. He just needs to find those positions in unorthodox places using the extra grip he's got on his softs, and he needs to get past all 5 drivers because Dylan and Tom, neither of them have track limits penalties. So the pressure's on here for Richard Vicker, the pressure's on for Ivan Eskrig as well. He needs to start gaining positions too if he wants any better than, well, probably P4 in this race with all the penalties ahead of him. It's a huge situation here, and Zviadek's been able to get rid of his 10 seconds, so he might get points after all. But here we go. The safety car is into the pits, and Dylan Hoagland's already gone before the final corner. VNT Tom sticking with him, but already Richard Vicker with the superior grip on those softs, looking for a move on Zane as quickly as possible. Here we go. 2 laps of green flag racing to go, and the soft tyre runners looking for any opportunity they can. Here goes Richard Vicker around the outside of 2 drivers into turn 1. What a move from Richard Vicker. He's already up to 4th place. Christian making moves as well as IRT Phil dropping places. Kevin Sonnenberg trying to find his way through. Lars Kramer side by side with him. Richard Vicker down into turn 4. Can he make any sort of move on Sieb into the double right-hander? No, but surely he will dive up the inside of the hairpin. He does indeed, and he's already up to 3rd place. Nathan, it's all happening.
It's incredible. Richard Vick is back into the podiums. He's got VNT Tom and Dylan Hoagland to go. IRT Phil is being overtaken by Lars Kramer and Nico Rassenberg as they get through. Kevin Zunneberg, Ivan Eskrig are moving through the grid. Here comes Kevin Zunneberg on TRT Zane. Oh, penalty to Richard Vick. Oh my God, he's now going to find 3 seconds. He's all over the back of the rear diffuser of VNT Tom as they go round the triple right-hander. TRT Christian is through on IRT and he's up to P4, but it is Richard Vick that chases down VNT Tom and Dylan Hoagland as they head towards the last lap. Did the McLaren and the Alpine make the right decision out of turn 16? No DRS for another lap, but he's not going to need it. Richard Vick into the slipstream of VNT Tom. He's going to go later on the brakes down towards turn 1, surely with them soft compounds, and he is through, and up the inside goes the Red Bull driver.
Kevin Zunneberg making moves, and Ivan Eskrig down the inside of Zane as well for 7th place. He is getting his way up. He might be able to get a podium after all with his teammate's penalty. Here comes Richard Vicker. He needs to gain 3 seconds somehow on Dylan Hoagland, who's kept his nose clean in this race. Christian looking in the background. Jensen with a penalty further back, but Richard Vicker looking all over the back of this McLaren. Can he get the grip on the exit? Yes, he can, but it's going to be the outside for turn 7. He's got to really send it here. He's got to use the grip of those softs. There's contact. They've made contact, the 2 of them, and Richard Vicker's through, but not cleanly on the McLaren. Dylan Hoagland, now Tom with a penalty as well in the Alpine, another one for him. Ivan Eskrig up to 6th. He's now on for 2nd place in this race after all, but Richard Vicker already gaining a ton of time on the drivers behind. How many positions is he going to lose? Will he lose out to his teammate here at the end? Richard Vicker leads the way, but it's going to be Dylan Hoagland. What a decision it was to stay out. What a risky decision it was from the lead of the race to stay out like that. It was a huge call, but it's worked out. Richard Vicker wins on track, but Dylan Hoagland wins the Qatar Grand Prix in PSF2, and Ivan Eskrig does get his teammate for P2 after all of that. Wow, what a finish to this race. Absolutely extraordinary. Nathan, I can barely believe what we've just seen.
That was phenomenal. It was very scrappy at the end. I think VNT Tom was pushed off, got a 3-second. It was very scrappy, but wow, it was exciting to see that sort of Grand Prix racing at the end. Everything on the line. Nobody knew who was going to win, and it was the Red Bull. Sorry, it was the... I can't remember who won now. Dylan Hoagland in the McLaren, that was it, yeah. I thought it was the Red Bull then. There was so much action going on, but wow, what a Grand Prix for PSF2 here in PSGL.
Absolutely extraordinary. I'm getting communicating with online services on the screen, unfortunately.
Sorry. Same.
Let's see, is that going to work? Can we please see the race results game, please? Cancel. Let's see. No, still not working. Okay, well, we're not going to run you through the whole results because we can't, unfortunately. But it is Dylan Hoagland who takes an extraordinary race victory here in Qatar. It's Ivan Eskrig who somehow gets P2 after it looked lost after the double stack in the pits. And he did very well to make sure he didn't get the track limits penalty. His teammate fell foul of the white lines and dropped to P3 in the end. But wow, what a race that was. What a conclusion. And I mean, I expected complete carnage in that in those final 2 laps. But all in all, I think the soft tyre runners did very well to not just barge their way through for the most part. Yeah. So that was fantastic racing on display and wonderful to watch. And I hope you all enjoyed in the chat as well. And Nathan, what are your thoughts?
Just an incredible Grand Prix, a fantastic ending. We knew that it was going to be exciting because of the tyres, because of the strategies, but we did not expect to see a safety car and 2 flying laps of racing with drivers on all sorts of strategies. That is just motorsport racing down to a T. You never know what's going to happen, and that's why it is so exciting and great to commentate on.
Absolutely. Well, after that thrilling conclusion to the Qatar GP, we've got 5 rounds to go in this championship. I think Ivan will have retaken the championship lead, but it won't be by much if he has. It's going to be very, very close between himself and Lars Kramer for the top spot. But in terms of the constructors as well, that's going to be a fantastic result for Red Bull as they look to try and get themselves into the fight. But Ivan Eskrig and Lars Kramer look like our 2 protagonists for the title for now, but who knows what could happen in these last 5 races. We will now have a break week in PSGL, I believe. I'm just going to triple, quadruple check that to make sure I'm not feeding you misinformation. But I'm pretty sure that is accurate. Yeah, we've got a break week next week, so no race here in PSF2 next week. But after that, in 2 weeks' time, we'll be heading to Qatar, the Circuit of the Americas in Texas, and the last 5 rounds will begin in PSGL Season 40. And I hope you'll be there, because we certainly will be. Cannot wait to see how this championship will conclude. But for the meantime, Nathan, it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
And we'll see you all in 2 weeks' time. Have a lovely break week, and we'll see you all then. Goodbye.